Oh, let me go. Look at that. It's so cute.
Alright, so far, our count for how many ornaments did we miss last year is 1. Still sitting on the tree. I'm gonna put it back and Kelsey won't notice until she watches this back because she's still asleep.
The bow is kind of
gonna be a little bit short on today's quota.
Whoopsies. Oh no.
Just how many extra sketches did you get finished?
Wait. What did I do?
Did you unplug it?
Come on, buddy. How many?
Yeah.
I made 85.
Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with the very last week of Believathon. Sadness. So it is the final week of Believathon, round 3. I'm sad to see it go, but I really don't have that much left to read, which is exciting. It's actually Tuesday night, decently late at night. I had full intentions of starting this vlog yesterday when I got off work, and then I didn't, and then the same thing today, and I had exporting issues with last week's vlog. It has been a stressful 3 days with that vlog, but it's good to go. We're uploading it today, so it'll come out tomorrow. But that's where I've been, and I'm the worst vlogger ever because I've actually already finished 2 vlogs this week. One yesterday and one today. So this is going to be a very chatty beginning video because I have all of the updates to tell you about. So yesterday I was able to finish the Mystery School of Music Craft by Jessica Corey, and this one, I forgot what it was for. It was for the Scream, which was listened to an audiobook. A lot of these actually could have worked for that, but I only had it on audiobook. So I was able to find an ebook version of this on Scribd as well, because the audiobook that I have was great, except for that it's really hard for me to keep kind of like track of where I am for Goodreads. So I like having physical or ebook copies so that I can kind of like accurately tell Goodreads, so like I know where I am throughout the book. So I did find an ebook on Scribd of this, which I actually really loved because there is actually artwork throughout this that the artist who created the cover did. It's the same artwork, and I love the cover. I think it's gorgeous, and so the fact that it had like these singular page pieces of art throughout the book were fantastic. But I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I wasn't quite sure what I was thinking about it until near the end, and then I like solidified my feelings. So basically, this was just a fun, surprising adventure about a girl who accidentally gets accepted to the Mystery School of Music Craft, which is for the best of the best, basically, and the ones who want to become maestros, who are people who actually perform magic and perform pieces of music, which are basically their version of spells. And it's very magic school-esque. It has the same kind of like grade system as like I would say like US schools do, because our main character is in 7th grade and that's the youngest in this school, and it goes all the way up to 12th grade, which is like the high school senior. So I don't know how many countries actually use that kind of system, but it's basically like older middle to high school is the ones who are accepted and go to Mystery School. And so she accidentally gets a letter that's addressed to her. However, there was another girl by the same name who accidentally died the day that the letters were sent out, and the letter is charmed to go to the person automatically, and so when it couldn't find the main girl, it went to her instead. And so she basically has to prove her place. And it's very much every kind of stereotypical thing you can expect from a book that has a girl who feels like she doesn't belong. So there's a lot of like I don't want to say self-hatred, but like putting herself down throughout the book because she feels like she's not supposed to be there. She feels like everybody's against her. No one knows why she's not supposed to be there except for her roommate, because her roommate was actually best friends with the girl who had died. And so no one really knows that she's not supposed to be there. But like she feels like she's not supposed to be there. So that got really sad and like slightly annoying throughout the book, because that's like all our main character thought about was how much she didn't belong, and she tried her hardest, but like she didn't fit, and it goes in all of these different directions that you really don't expect it to. So that was interesting. There was just a lot about this book that I never expected. It has a lot of the same kind of tropes and situations, like I said, that most books that have to do with a magic school do. It does remind me a lot of the first Harry Potter book, especially with like a teacher who doesn't like the main character, aka the Snape character. And usually when books are so similar to Harry Potter, I do not like them. But this one actually worked surprisingly. And I think it's because it's a standalone, there's not a series. This set up very well to be a series, but it also set up really well to be just a single standalone book. There's a lot of references throughout this book to classical music and classical artists. So if you're a big like classical music, Bach, Mozart, you just kind of like know like Beethoven's Fifth, which is like dun 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 dun, like that song, that's throughout this book as well. So like there's little things here and there. So like if that's your thing, you would love this because there's so many little references. Like I'm trying to get my husband to read this because he would love it, being a music teacher. Like there's all of the fun stuff throughout it. The magic system was really, really cool to read about. I really appreciated that just because of how interesting it was that the music sheets and like the physical music was the spells, and so their spell books were basically just like books of music. I don't know, just like something about the magic system was really fascinating to me. Last thing that I will say that I loved about my experience reading was that I listened to the audiobook via Audible, so it was like a specific Audible original, and that audiobook had music underneath it, so anytime the kids or the teachers or really anybody was casting a spell, you would hear it. And so they actually got an actual youth orchestra to do those parts. So our main character's instrument is the flute. So whenever she had any kind of moments where she was practicing or during her audition or really anything where it was just her, you would hear singularly only a flute. Or like she has a really good friend who plays the violin. So when the two of them would play together, you would hear a flute and a violin. And so like they were very well at like matching up what instruments were being played at what times. So anytime the kids, like I said, anybody's doing a spell, you hear it, and that just made the experience so cool. And I loved that they got an actual youth orchestra to do all of that for a middle grade book. It was great. It was a great experience. I highly, highly recommend the audiobook if this sounds like your kind of book. It was really fascinating, and the magic system was really fascinating. So I gave it 4 stars. It was great. I'm really glad that I read that. So that one I finished yesterday, and then today, I finished A Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison. I actually picked this one up yesterday when I finished Mistwick School and listened to the audiobook of it and finished it today. So this got 5 stars. So this was for the hand mirror, which was to read a book with a beautiful cover. Obviously, this cover is stunning. So I ended up giving this one, like I said, 5 stars. I could tell this was going to be a 5-star within pages because I don't know if there's anything special about Michelle Harrison's writing, but I loved it. I was enthralled in the story right away, and it was so good. It was so good. So this book follows 3 sisters. We have our main sister, who is the middle one. Her name is Betty. We have her older sister, which is named Fliss, and then her younger sister, who is named Charlie. The town in which they live, they are cursed to never leave. So if they do end up leaving the borders of this town and kind of where they're living, they will die by the next sunset. Or is it sunrise? I am so bad at this. Basically, they're not going to survive for another day. And so they've been cursed to stay in this town. But on the flip side of that, they each get a fun magical object. There is a bag, a set of Russian dolls, and a hand mirror. And this book starts on Halloween, which is Betty's 13th birthday, I want to say. Her sister Fliss is 16. And Charlie, I don't remember exactly how old Charlie is, but she's younger. She's like 8 or 9, I want to say. So she's like significantly younger. And it just goes on a wild adventure. Some things happen, and they're trying to break the curse. This has a little bit of a dual timeline. It's mostly set in the sisters' time, but there's a little bit of history from the actual curse being cast. So you're kind of learning along with the sisters this story of something that happens in this town and how it relates to the sisters, and they're trying to figure out everything. So I really liked that dual timeline. I think that helped really kind of set off everything, because the prologue is from this other person's perspective, and you are already thrown into the story. You kind of already feel like you know a little bit more than the kids do. I don't know how to explain how atmospheric this book is and how amazing this story was, because every time I thought that we'd like hit the climax, I was like, I'm not even halfway through this book yet, and then something else would happen, and I was like, oh my gosh, now we're definitely getting close to the end, and we weren't even close yet. So like oh, this was so good. I can't even articulate to you why this book was so good, because I'm not even sure, to be honest. I'm still a little confused as to why it was so good. But the one thing that I found interesting about this is that this is the first in a series. Like, I have Sprinkle of Sorcery, which is the sequel, and this could very well be a standalone. So where are we gonna go? Like, I even read the back of the second book, and I'm still like, it's basically the same thing where there's like no description of what's happening, and I have no idea where it's gonna go. So this was just so well done, and I loved the kind of pinch of magic system surrounding these three magical objects. I love that this was from, I mean, it's in third person, but it's from the middle sister's perspective, and I feel like with books, especially middle grade, that have to do with siblings, it's either from the older sister's or like the older sibling's perspective, or like the youngest sibling. So to see it from like the middle girl's perspective was perfect. Like, there are some things that happen in the very last chapter after all of the big events happen that I appreciated a lot. I'm very excited. I understand why people are obsessed with this author now. Now I want to read all of the things by this author. So I understand all of the hype that like Gavin has put behind this book, and Ashley from A Falling Through Fiction really loves this author as well. So like I get it. So this was fabulous. Maybe by the time I do my wrap up, I'll have like logical thoughts to tell you, but considering I have to do that next week, we'll see. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, because it was great. Oh my goodness. With those two being done, I technically only have 2 more books left for the readathon, and those are Willa of the Wood by Robert Betty and The Vanishing Trick by Jenny Spangler. The Vanishing Trick is for The Shadow, which is to read a book published in 2020, and Willa of the Wood is for The Torn Page, which is to read a book with supernatural elements. So, I am really feeling The Vanishing Trick, so I think I'm going to try to pick up this one next. I'm not really feeling Willa of the Wood right now, so I'm not sure if I'm going to get to it. So like, this is one that I've had on my shelves forever, and I want to read, but the mood reader in me is not feeling it. So we may get to all of the books on my TBR for Believathon, except for one. We'll have to see what happens, but I think for sure I'm going to pick up The Vanishing Trick next. It just sounds really interesting, so I think that's going to be my next read. I'm not sure when I'm going to pick this one up, because I also really want to get to my nonfiction for the month, which doesn't have to do with Believathon at all, but like, I'm really enjoying that one. So like, that one I'm in the mood for, and this one I'm in the mood for. So if I finish both those by the end of the month, I'll be a happy human, and if I don't get to this one, it's not the end of the world, and I'll just put it on yet another Believathon TBR. But these are technically the only 2 books left for Believathon that I have to read. So I have no idea what it's going to look like. I have no idea what this week's going to look like, because it's Thanksgiving in the US, which I think I mentioned in last week's vlog. And also, if you live in the US, you know that. But I have the rest of the week off, which I'm very excited about. I have plans to film a little bit tomorrow, because I do have a video that's going to incorporate my husband. And then Thursday we're going to go have like actual Thanksgiving dinner with Chris's parents and his brother. So like a really tiny, small gathering for Thanksgiving. We'll bring you along for that. We'll see what happens. And then Friday we get to put up the Christmas tree, and I am very excited. And that is literally all of the plans I have. I hope to do lots of editing this week, because I have pre-filmed a lot of stuff. And that's really all I have for you. So I finished 2 more books. Very excited. I have another 5-star, which is great. And we'll see what happens. I have no idea what this week holds. I have all of this time now, and I don't know what to do with it. But we'll take you along for the ride. Sunday. Oh, I've lost all track of time. Sunday, the 29th of November, and I've come here because I have book updates, but I'm also going to end the vlog today because I've read everything that I need to. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up here. So I literally just finished The Vanishing Trick by Ginny Spangler. I am going to end up giving this one 4.5. I think is probably what it's probably gonna be closer to a 4.5 than a 4. But I really, really loved this. This one was for the prompt of The Shadow, which is to read a book that was published in 2020, and I really want to say this was published in like the spring sometime. But this was so much fun. I started it yesterday while I was like doing some, you would have seen I was like doing some Christmas decorations or editing, or I don't know what I was doing. I was doing about 10 minutes. Oh, I was wrapping presents yesterday. That's what it was. So I started this when I was wrapping presents yesterday, and then just continued throughout the day and today as well. This is basically set, I think it says Edwardian England is what I've been saying, but I'm pretty sure it's closer to like Victorian England, because I want to say they mentioned the Queen, who was Victoria, in here, but I might be wrong on that. But it follows our main character Leander, who makes a pact and a deal with this woman named Madame Pinchbeck. And so basically he's thinking, his mom has died, so he's squatting basically in the house in which his mother was employed, and he is stealing food and money basically to survive. He makes a deal with Madame Pinchbeck that in exchange for the locket he has from his mother, that she will give him food and a job. And she is actually a witch, I guess is the best way to describe it. So she's got this magical ability to trap kids' souls in specific objects and then like make them appear and disappear at will, and they basically do stuff for her. And so he is a thief, so she has hired him to be a thief for her. She's kind of like a charlatan. She does a lot of those conjuring the dead, says that she's a medium and can see the dead and communicate with the dead, but actually it's a lot of mirrors and tricks. And so Leander is the newest kid that she has kidnapped. She also has 2 others, one named Charlotte and one named Felix. Charlotte's been with her for a few years, and Felix has been with her for a very, very long time. And so he basically gets coerced into agreeing to this deal without realizing that he has been tricked and trapped. And it's the 3 of these kids banding together against this woman. This was such a fascinating magic system. I would love to see a YA version of this world where they go into more detail on the actual magic system, because in a middle grade they're probably not going to do that much, because they didn't really do it in this book. But it was very fascinating, and I would love to see this author just kind of explain this world and her magic system and how she can like trap kids in specific objects, which they call the cabinets. And I'm just curious to see how that would work. But I really, really enjoyed my time reading this. This is very atmospheric. This, I feel like, is a perfect fall read because it is kind of eerie. It has witches in it. I don't know, there's a lot of like vibes that I get that are very fall vibes. So if you want an atmospheric read for that time of year, I think this is definitely a good book. But it was great. Like the entire time I was reading it, I was having a blast reading it. And I loved it so much. The character of Madame Pinchbeck was very fascinating to me because she is like the perfect villain, to the point of like at first she seems very one-dimensional, but you get to see her throughout this book. You get to see like the kids learn more about her, and she becomes a very kind of like well-rounded villain, and she's just evil. Like she's just pure evil, and her evil deeds, like, you see them happen more and more, and so you think that she's actually trying to be, like, this super nice person, and she's not. She's just really, really manipulative and very well at doing that kind of thing. And it was very good. I definitely enjoyed it, but yeah, I loved this. I loved the kind of acceptance of Leander by Charlotte and Felix, and then vice versa, where Leander kind of accepts these 2 people in his life, because all he's ever known is his mom, and he's been on his own for so long that it's hard for him to like accept people into his life and actually have a family. And so now that he's got these 2 people who are kind of looking out for him, it's like seeing their relationship grow throughout this book was very well done. And the ending made me very happy. I was squealing the entire time I was reading like the last 5 chapters. And oh, it was very good. It was a very fun mystery. I loved the kids discovering what was happening. It took me about a fourth of the book to really get invested with these kids. I wasn't quite sure how I was feeling about them until a little ways into this book. But it was still great, and I loved it a lot. So, yay! Another great book done. I didn't ever get around to Willow of the Wood. However, I do have a book that I read earlier this month that it's a middle grade that I haven't counted for anything, and I actually haven't mentioned it at all, and it is one that would work really well for the prompt that Willow of the Wood would have worked for, which was the Torn Page, which is to read a book with supernatural elements. So earlier this month, I actually read Delicates by Brenna Thumler, which is the sequel to Sheets. This is actually a NetGalley arc that I got right after I finished Sheets. I went and found it, and I think it's coming out in the spring of the beginning of next year. I'm not entirely sure the date off the top of my head when it's coming out, but it is next year sometime, earlier next year sometime. But it does involve kind of supernatural elements because it does have these sheets and ghosts in it like the first one did. So I did give it 5 stars. It was fabulous. I think this is right up there with George and should be considered required reading because it tackles some really tough topics. It follows the main character from the first book, and she's kind of been accepted by the popular crowd, and so she's trying to kind of fit in with them, and in doing so is kind of forgetting her friends at the laundromat, the sheets, and the ghosts that are helping her out. And there's this girl who is actually the daughter of, I think it's the, I don't know if it's the gym coach or like the swim coach. We only ever see him do anything with swimming, so I'm going to go with swim coach instead. And he's basically asked this girl to kind of like keep an eye on his daughter because his daughter loves photography and is really obsessed with capturing ghosts. But there's some severe trigger warnings with this because there's talk of bullying, there's talk of suicide, there's talk of loss of a parent, there's grief, which those last 2 were, and the first one as well. But this tackles some very tough topics, specifically with talk of suicide. And for that to be in a middle grade, I think is really, really important because it gets kids to kind of start thinking about those difficult topics and parts of life that they maybe not have ever thought about before. But I also really enjoyed that this tackled the topic of bullying, but also from the you can still be a bully even though you're a bystander. Like, the main character is part of this popular group that bullies this girl, and by not doing anything, she's also partaking in the bullying, and they have a conversation about that as well. So there's a lot of things that this graphic, teeny tiny graphic novel covers. I think it was important to have these conversations in a book that is geared more towards the middle grade, younger reader, and I think this should be required reading for kids in middle school. I really do. I think some of these topics are really important, and I think it's handled in a way that doesn't dive deep into it, but it kind of just touches the surface so that you can understand that these things are happening, and they do happen. And like with bullying, they're bad. Don't do it. Even if you're not physically bullying, you're just being there as a bystander. That's still bullying. So some of the stuff is not tackled very deeply, but it's still mentioned, and I think it's important. And I really appreciated that this book / graphic novel did that. And it was great. It got 5 stars. So, I read that actually 2 weeks ago. Yes. 2 weeks ago, last week, whatever. But it didn't fit any of the prompts, so I didn't mention it. But it does now. So that's what I'm going to replace with Willow of the Wood, which means that I was able to finish 1 book for every single prompt of Believathon. I have successfully completed Believathon. That's crazy. How did I do that? I don't know. But I hope you enjoyed coming on this 4-week journey with me. If you participated in Believathon, please let me know down below how your reading went. If you got everything that you needed to and wanted to get done in the month of November, I would love to know how it went for you. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little mini vlog series. And if you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you want to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there if you want to follow along on any of those. And I will see you guys in my next video, whatever that will be. Bye.